The title of my artefact is Natural Ore. This is a small, atmospheric screen test I've devised to help me experiment with and solidify some of my creative intentions in the early stages of my final media product development. This is a concept I've been interested in exploring for a while. I've known for a long time that my main subject matter, or all-encompassing theme, which backs my piece, is nature. And by nature, it's going to represent more so an individual's personal experience of nature. When I approached my artefact, I wanted to reflect the articulate moments of beauty we often miss when we explore these innate, naturally crafted landscapes. Spending a lot of time in nature is important, I feel, and I want the viewer to get a scope into an often overlooked world where the delicate experience of a place so grand like a forest is almost personified with character and direction. I'm also making it for my own creative intentions. I want to have reference of styles, looks and camera work in similar location types. I felt that it was going to aid strengthening my own artistic competencies also. So if there was anything that I was to question in the piece, it would be what works and what doesn't. I'm hoping to conclude what looks and styles I'm going to utilise in my final product. So if there was any connection I would want the viewer to have with this piece, it would be more of an emotional response to the visuals, a sensory stimulation, so to say. My intended audience is very open. I believe my piece can be enjoyed by anyone who enjoys nature or cinematography. Emotionally, I want the video to evoke the same emotional reaction I get when I'm surrounded by nature. In the complex, contemporary landscape that is the 21st century, I feel it can be a purifying experience for an individual to invest into nature as much as they possibly can. It gives you time to contemplate or reflect where it is we have all come from, learn to hold a greater significance in your own existence. The Western world, I feel, gets emotionally interrupted by this constant assumed anxiety. We lay weak to a superficial affect that controls our minds with discontent, dissatisfaction, and a general awareness of what we don't have and what we want, rather than standing back and realising how much we do have. The world is in a very messy state at this moment in time. People are killing each other all over the world for reasons so unjust that the motive all seems lost in the execution of this madness. In this time where our civilised world is now sadly led by greed and delusion, a lot of us really forget what it is that actually unites us all as a species, the Earth. I believe that the reason our world sociologically is such a mess is because the world geographically is being taken for granted. Global warming causes drought and famine, leaving humans in an anxious, unsatisfactory situation. People are reacting to their environment with desperation rather than love and compassion because they are not gifted with the essentials that our planet is supposed to provide. My artefact hasn't been made to exemplify this concept, but it's a starting point as to where the direction of my final major project is going. Now, when researching for my project, I wanted to explore a couple of things. Filming in a forest and what that entails, the sociological significance of a forest, and other directors' and cinematographers' depictions of nature or other similar subject matters. I began by exploring forestry as a starting point. Now, forestry is a form of environmental science. This covers a multitude of different responsibilities and acts, creating or crafting, sustaining and maintaining, or conserving and repairing forests. The United Kingdom has its very own non-ministerial government department for this exact trade. The English Forestry Commission was a bill put in place a small time after the First World War. On the brink of the 20th century, due to the immense felling that occurred during the war, the Prime Minister at the time, David Lloyd George, set out to create a state organisation. He said that this would be the most effective way to begin accelerating a plan for reforestation and for the future of British woodlands to date. Now, the Forest Commission not only looks after and reserves our woodland landscapes, they also offer a diverse amount of useful services and information anchored towards the forest life of Britain. They provide information on a multitude of subjects, from regulations, work opportunities, to tree pests and diseases. It's a useful platform to come across as it can really educate you on a side of English nature most people are completely unaware of. Permission to film and create commercial artefacts is an essential when organising large productions. I know I'm not making my film with any intention of financial gain, but I know it would bring peace of mind to know that I can orchestrate my production around my environment with full knowledge I have the clearance to be there. I didn't have to follow through with this permission, as I was only filming in a local forest for my artefact, but in the future this is going to be a very necessary factor to the pre-production of my final product. They offer contact emails of forestry commissioners from all over the regions of England. Now I found as I began to look further into the world of forestry, it helped me come to my own outcomes about the significance of these worlds. A forest holds so many different ecological, sociological pros. In addition to producing marketable timber outputs for the country, a forest also holds non-market benefits also, such as free recreation, biodiversity, or pollution absorption. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, we sadly would be nowhere without trees. Emanuel Lubetsky is a world-renowned cinematographer. People have recognised his work as some of the best in the world. His visual style has transferred through many different regions and genres of cinema, to box office breaking blockbusters, to the contemporary greats of the art cinema world. His work has always been something that has mesmerised me, especially the collaborative efforts of the partnership he has formed with director Terrence Malick, a director whose films always explores the contemplative state of what it is to be human. In recent years, his films has explored love and life, always managing to relate to the essence of humanity, nature. I decided to explore how Emmanuel creates and envisages these depictions of real life in such a beautiful, enriching, and satisfying form. It's almost as though his fluid, bleak, and naturally toned visual style synchronises perfectly with Terrence Malick's subject matter. When working with Terrence on films like The Tree of Life or To the Wonder, Terrence and Emmanuel worked in tight communication and constructed together a list of rules. These rules would be otherwise known as their dogma. This gave Emmanuel limits as to how he would frame, light, and move the shots of the camera. It is a largely compiled list, but there were a few specific points which intrigued me the most. Shooting in available natural light, preserving the latitude of an image, shooting with a Steadicam or handheld, or as Terrence liked to name it, in the eye of the hurricane. You can see these techniques present in most of his recent titles, such as The Tree of Life and To the Wonder. I felt this research influenced my product substantially. Being a large inspiration in my creative perception, I wanted to apply some of his rules and ideas to my own piece. It helped me inspire how I wanted to handle this execution. For example, it had never occurred to me the sort of visual effect you could get from spinning the camera on its Z-axis of a Steadicam rig, rather than the pan or tilt. This technique is used by Emanuel Lubetsky frequently. It's almost as though it's done for a playful effect, to reflect an almost unbespoke feel to the scene. One thing I've taken from this exploration of Emmanuel's work is that, although a production can be highly conceptualised or aesthetically calculated, you realise to create a piece which is to reflect a real emotion or natural state of being, you have to be open to the serendipity, understanding the significance of the accidental, being prepared for the spontaneous. There are moments of truth that happen around us on a daily basis. Nature is an incredibly unpredictable force who can change at any moment. I want to make sure I apply this attitude to filmmaking, as I feel it will help me utilise my desired environment further. Music was also something I experimented with in this piece. Being a lover of all arts, I wanted to combine my passion for music and image together in one. When you think of a forest, you think of an innate, quiet, and often peaceful environment. I wanted to try and reflect that through the music. I was inspired by a music video I saw by the artist Flacco. His music is bass-driven and immersive. The music is paired up with fast-paced, tightly framed images of nature. I would say the connection of the sound and the image evokes an intense, overwhelming emotional reaction. With the use of a monochrome colour palette and fast-paced cuts of macro images, it creates a really interesting sensory experience. Now, taking inspiration from this, I intended to play with the same idea, but reflect a different emotional feeling from the music I create. I decided that a ukulele was my best option when reflecting my own delicate experience of a forest. I first intended to record the song in the forest where I made the video, adding another atmospheric factor to the piece. The sound from the ukulele sadly doesn't project enough for the mic in an open environment to pick up at a satisfactory level. So I decided at this point to record my piece at home. I needed a location that would allow the sound waves to bounce off one another in a small space, but also at the same time creating enough reverberation that it gives off my desired effect. I solved this problem by recording the piece in my bathroom, an unorthodox but useful solution to this situation. In post, after overlaying a soundscape I recorded of the forest and adding some reverb to the filter to the soundtrack I recorded, the song stood out from the foliage of the recorded track. The best part of a research and development process is understanding the similarities in a lot of other people's ideas. You begin to feel as though the substance of your own work holds a lot more integrity when you see others gaining acknowledgement for their similar ideas. We live in an interesting time where so much has been done before us and so much has been created. It's learning how you can take the best components from them all and develop your own style and birth your own hybrid concepts. All I want to do now is further my research and develop and employ more ideas and concepts into my work. Aristotle said, "Mimetic activity is instinctive to humans from childhood onwards, and they differ from other animals by being thoroughly mimetic and by developing their earliest understandings through mimesis.